Hello and welcome to Cinema Screen HD. Today we're diving into an action-packed, adventure-filled sci-fi movie from 2009, Race to Witch Mountain. Now, to give you a quick glimpse of the storyline, the movie follows a Las Vegas taxi driver who unexpectedly encounters two extraterrestrial beings who've traveled 3,000 light-years from their home planet to Earth to stop an impending invasion. The driver decides to help them on their mission. However, when the U.S. Department of Defense learns about these beings and assigns a high-ranking officer specializing in UFO operations to capture them. As if that weren't enough, their own planet has sent an assassin to Earth to stop them. Will they succeed in preventing the invasion? What challenges will they face here on Earth? Can they escape both the officer and the assassin to return to their home planet? Stay tuned until the end of the video to uncover all the answers. And before we get started, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon to set notifications to all. Now, without further ado, let's dive into the video. The movie begins with a series of news reports about UFO sightings worldwide. Shortly after, we see an unidentified spacecraft speeding toward Earth and crashing in the Searchlight area of Nevada. This incident prompts the U.S. Department of Defense to notify Major Henry Burke, a top official dealing with UFO-related matters, and assign him to investigate. Henry, along with his team, heads to the crash site and begins an extensive search of the area. Next, we're introduced to the main character, Jack Bruno, a taxi driver in Las Vegas. That day, Dr. Alex Friedman hires Jack to take her to the UFO convention being held at the Hollywood Casino and Hotel. On their way, Alex invites Jack to attend her lecture on UFOs, but he politely declines. After finishing his day's work, Jack returns home and goes to bed. The following morning, while watching TV, Jack notices a news segment about the incident in Searchlight. However, the report avoids mentioning anything about a UFO crash. As Jack gets ready for work and prepares to leave in his car, two associates of Andrew Wolf, a crime boss Jack used to work for, show up and try to coerce him into returning to his old life. Jack refuses, and when the two try to attack him, he fights back. A police officer arrives during the altercation, allowing Jack to escape the situation. Meanwhile, the story shifts back to the crash site, where Henry and his team discover foot markings in the ground near the wreckage, suggesting the presence of extraterrestrial beings. Returning to Jack as he drives off from the earlier encounter, he suddenly notices two kids sitting in the backseat of his cab. Shocked, he stops the car and questions them, asking, "Who are you, and what are you doing in my car?" The boy introduces himself as Seth and the girl as his sister, Sarah. They tell Jack they need to get to a specific location and ask if he can take them there. Jack responds, "I can, but I don't drive for free. Can you pay for the ride?" Seth suddenly pulls out a stack of cash he had with him and asks Jack if it's enough. Satisfied, Jack agrees and starts driving Seth and Sarah to their destination. Meanwhile, Henry and his team analyze the markings near the crash site and conclude that two extraterrestrial beings had emerged from the spacecraft. They note that these beings bear a striking resemblance to humans. Soon after, surveillance footage from nearby CCTV cameras reveals that the two beings boarded a bus heading toward the city of Sin and later withdrew all the money from an ATM without even physically touching it. The footage also shows them getting into a taxi. Henry, convinced that these beings possess extraordinary abilities, insists that they must be found and captured. As Jack, Seth, and Sarah continue their journey, Jack receives a call from his boss, Frank, asking about the ride and if the passengers are able to pay. Jack dismisses the question with a vague response and cuts the call. Shortly after, Sarah warns Jack that several vehicles are following them and are likely planning to attack. Jack brushes off her concern until he notices the black SUVs trailing them. Despite Sarah's urging to speed up, Jack initially slows down, allowing the SUVs to overtake him. However, the SUVs don't pass and instead attempt to box him in and force his car to stop. Realizing the danger, Jack skillfully maneuvers the car, refusing to stop and continuing to drive at high speed. As the chase intensifies, Jack uses his driving expertise to outsmart the SUVs, causing two of them to crash. However, one SUV remains in pursuit. At this moment, Seth uses his extraordinary alien powers to step out of the taxi and destroy the remaining SUV. Sarah then uses her powers to stop and reverse the car and bring Seth back into the vehicle. However, Jack doesn't notice any of this. Once they're back on the road, Jack steps out of the car near the damaged SUV, believing the attackers were sent by Andrew. He confronts Henry, mistaking him for one of Andrew's men, and firmly says, I'm not getting involved in your business again. Jack then gets back into the taxi and drives away. Henry orders his team to gather every detail about Jack as quickly as possible. As Jack, Seth, and Sarah continue their journey, night begins to fall. Sarah points out an abandoned house in the distance, claiming it's their destination. Jack stops the car, skeptical, and says, "I don't think anyone lives there." Seth, giving Jack all the money they had, steps out of the car and walks into the house with Sarah. Curious, Jack gets out to inspect the damage to his taxi and is surprised at how bad it looks. Just then, he hears noises coming from inside the house. Worried that Seth and Sarah might be in trouble, Jack heads inside to check on them. Inside the house, Jack finds Seth and Sarah hiding. Seth warns him, "You shouldn't follow us. You're putting your life in danger." With that, the two open a hidden door within the house and step inside. Intrigued, Jack follows them. As they move deeper inside, the camera reveals a robot-like figure lurking behind Jack. Unaware of this, Jack continues following Seth and Sarah into the secret passage. Jack follows Seth and Sarah as they emerge in a mysterious location. Despite Jack asking where they are, Seth and Sarah remain silent, focusing instead on searching for something. Eventually, they locate a device, but as soon as they retrieve it, the robo comes and attempts to attack them. Jack fights back, but Robo overpowered Jack, and the robot sets the entire area ablaze, causing mass destruction. The trio tries to escape, but the robot continues its relentless attacks. Somehow, they manage to evade it and reach Jack's taxi, driving away from the burning site. After a while, as Jack stops the car and asks what's going on, they notice a strange aircraft approaching from behind. Alarmed, Jack resumes driving. The aircraft launches repeated attacks on them, but Jack maneuvers skillfully, avoiding its strikes. He drives the car into a railway tunnel to evade the aircraft, staying there until it passes. While waiting, Jack questions Seth and Sarah about who is chasing them and why. Seth explains, "It's a siphon. It was in the house too. It's a deadly assassin created specifically to kill us." After waiting for some time, Jack continues driving along the railway tracks, but the aircraft reappears and attacks them again. The chase intensifies as both the car and the aircraft navigate the another tunnel. Suddenly, a train approaches from the opposite direction. Jack narrowly avoids a collision, but the aircraft crashes into the train, destroying both. Meanwhile, Henry and his team uncover Jack's full history. They discover that Jack used to be the driver for Andrew Wolfe, a notorious crime lord. Although Jack was arrested 2 years ago, his good behavior earned him an early release from prison. Later, Jack stops the car again, and Sarah decides to reveal the truth. She tells Jack that both she and Seth are extraterrestrial beings with unique powers. Skeptical, Jack refuses to believe her, prompting Sarah to demonstrate her abilities by manipulating objects inside the car with her mind. She explains, "I can read others' thoughts and use my mind to affect physical objects." Seth then adds, "I can pass through solid objects and manipulate them as well." Finally, convinced by their explanations and demonstrations, Jack begins to trust them. Next, we see Henry and his team investigating the site of the train accident. They discover that along with a small spacecraft involved in the collision, a taxi had also passed through that area. Meanwhile, the robotic figure, or siphon as Sarah and Seth called it, emerges from the wreckage. Its suit, slightly damaged in the crash, gets repaired as it prepares for the next move. Jack, along with Seth and Sarah, arrives at a nearby town called Stony Creek to fix the taxi. They pull into a garage, and Jack tells the mechanic, "I need this car fixed, no matter the cost. I'll pay whatever you ask." The mechanic examines the car and jokingly asks, "What happened here? Did a rampaging rhino chase you down or something?" Leaving the car for repairs, Jack takes Seth and Sarah to a cafe nearby. As they sit in the cafe, Jack receives another call from Frank, who impatiently asks, "Is the hire done yet? I need that taxi back." Frustrated, Jack cuts the call. Unbeknownst to him, Henry and his team are listening in on the call. Using the information, they pinpoint Jack's location and quickly set off towards Stony Creek. A little later, as Jack is talking with Seth and Sarah, his phone rings again. This time, it's Henry, who coldly tells him, "We've surrounded your location. There's no way out. Hand over the kids in 5 minutes, and I'll make it worth your while. I'll clear all your charges." Jack calmly replies, "I'll come to you in 5 minutes," before cutting the call. However, Henry, not trusting Jack, begins moving into the cafe with his team. Sarah, sensing the danger, asks Jack, "They're here for us, aren't they? What are you planning to do?" Without saying much, Jack gets up and heads toward the cafe's sheriff, who is sitting at a nearby table. Jack tells the sheriff about the armed group outside, prompting the sheriff to stand up and confront Henry and his team. "What are you doing in my town with all these weapons?" the sheriff demands. Meanwhile, back inside the cafe, a waitress discreetly shows Jack a hidden door they can use to escape. Jack tries to open it, but it's locked from the outside. Seth uses his powers, phasing his hand through the door to unlock it. The trio slips outside just as a barking dog charges at Jack. Sarah, using her telekinetic abilities, calms the dog, stopping it in its tracks. With the immediate threat neutralized, the trio continues their escape. Meanwhile, Henry presents his credentials to the sheriff, who verifies his identity and allows Henry and his team to search the cafe. However, by then, they discover that Jack and the others have already left. Quickly, Jack reaches his taxi, gets Sarah and Seth inside, and starts driving away. As they flee, Henry's team attacks them, but Sarah and Seth use their powers to fend off the attackers. They manage to escape, even taking the dog with them. As they drive, Jack asks Sarah, "That people that was following us on the highway, was that the same people after you now?" Sarah confirms it, and Seth adds, "You need to take us to their main research facility. That's where they've kept our spacecraft." Jack, however, refuses, saying, "I can't do that. I don't know anything about UFOs or aliens." Sarah then asks Jack about Dr. Alex Friedman, suggesting that he might be able to help and asking Jack to take them to Alex. With no other options, Jack reluctantly agrees and starts driving toward the location where Alex is giving a lecture about UFOs. Eventually, they arrive in Las Vegas, hoping to find Alex. As they enter the lecture venue, someone who recognizes Jack, a former associate of Andrew Wolf, spots him and makes a call, informing someone about Jack's presence. Inside, Alex is conducting his lecture on UFOs. However, the audience members keep asking silly questions, and Alex, annoyed and unwilling to entertain them, doesn't respond. Frustrated, the audience gradually leaves the lecture. Meanwhile, Henry's team learns that Jack has arrived in Las Vegas, putting them back on Jack's trail. Later, Jack, Seth, and Sarah meet Alex and explain everything to him, but Alex refuses to believe any of it. While Jack and Alex are talking, Seth notices a photo on Alex's laptop and says, "That's a picture of our spacecraft." At first, Alex still doesn't believe them, and when she tries to pick up the laptop, it accidentally slips and starts to fall. Sarah uses her powers to stop it midair and catch it before it hits the ground. This display of power convinces Alex, and she begins to trust them. Alex then asks, "Who are you really?" Seth pulls out a device he had been carrying and uses it to display an image of their home planet. He explains, "Our planet is located 3,000 light years away from Earth. We traveled here using a wormhole." Alex asks why they came to Earth, and Sarah explains, "Our planet is dying. The atmosphere is deteriorating to the point where it's becoming difficult for us to breathe. Our parents, who are scientists, studied Earth's climate and found a solution. Even though our planet's leaders supported it, but our military opposed the plan. They wanted to abandon our planet and invade Earth instead. Most of our people, including our parents, disagreed. Because of this, the military imprisoned them. That's why we came here, to collect Earth's climate data using this device." She then shows Alex the device they took from their home. Sarah continues, "When our military learned we were coming to Earth, they sent Sci-Fi to stop us. If we don't complete our mission and return in time, they will proceed with their invasion of Earth." Hearing this, Alex tells Jack, "We have to find their spacecraft no matter what." The group then visits Harlan, a UFO enthusiast in the area, to gather more information. They explain to Harlan they're seen the Nevada UFO crash and ask if he knows where the spacecraft might have been taken. Based on the secret data, Harlan tells them if a UFO was recovered in Nevada, it would have been taken to Witch Mountain, about 50 miles from the Nevada border. Afterward, the group of four returns to the hotel, where Alex goes to gather her belongings. While Jack is keeping an eye on Alex, he realizes that Seth and Sarah are missing. Jack starts searching for them, but before he can find them, two of Andrew's associates arrive and try to capture him. Despite being outnumbered, Jack manages to fight them off and escape, continuing his search for Seth and Sarah. Meanwhile, Henry and his team arrive at the hotel, also looking for Jack and the kids. Jack eventually finds Seth and Sarah watching a stage performance, but before they can leave, Sci-Fi arrives and attacks the children. Sarah uses her powers to fight back, and the three manage to escape. As they flee, Henry's team catches up with them at a casino hall. However, Sarah causes a commotion in the casino, allowing them to escape with Alex, who has just rejoined the group. Afterward, Jack's taxis speed away from the hotel. Henry and his team pursue them relentlessly, trying to capture Jack and the kids. Eventually, Henry's team manages to stop the taxi, but only to discover that the person driving it is not Jack but Harlan. While Henry is distracted, Jack and the others, having evaded capture, take Harlan's vehicle and continue their journey toward Witch Mountain. Using the map Harlan gave them, they reach the area near Witch Mountain and hide their vehicle before making their way toward the underground base. They try to sneak in unnoticed, but the security cameras in the area catch them on their approach. Despite this, they manage to find a service tunnel and attempt to enter the base undetected. As they proceed, both Sarah and Seth suddenly collapse, seemingly unconscious after being hit by something. Henry and his team arrive soon after, capturing Sarah and Seth and taking them into the facility. Meanwhile, Alex and Jack are forced to retreat as two soldiers escort them down the mountain. As Jack and Alex are being escorted down the mountain by two soldiers, Jack takes the opportunity to fight them off, allowing him and Alex to escape. Meanwhile, in the bunker, Henry begins examining Seth and Sarah, who remain unconscious, preparing them for further testing. After evading the soldiers, Jack and Alex make their way back to the bunker. Using a service tunnel, they sneak inside and start searching for the kids. Eventually, they locate the lab where Seth and Sarah are being held. However, the lab is heavily guarded, making it impossible to enter. Just then, Sci-Fi arrives at the bunker and starts attacking the guards. The commotion causes the guards stationed outside the lab to leave, creating an opening. Jack and Alex seize the opportunity to enter the lab. They overpower the scientists conducting the experiments and successfully rescue Seth and Sarah. At the same time, Henry realizes that someone has infiltrated the lab. When he arrives, he finds that Seth and Sarah are already gone. Jack, Alex, Seth, and Sarah head deeper into the bunker and eventually locate the alien spaceship. As they prepare to board it, Henry and his entire team arrive and surround them. The four of them hold hands as Henry's mans open fire. However, despite the barrage of bullets, none of them are harmed. Amid the chaos, Siphon arrives and begins attacking Henry's team, causing further distraction. Taking advantage of the situation, Jack, Alex, Seth, and Sarah board the spaceship and prepare for takeoff. As they power up the ship, Siphon positions himself in front of it, attempting to block their escape. Ignoring him, they launch the spaceship, knocking Siphon aside as they soar out of the bunker. The group manages to fly through a tunnel and escape just before the bunker's main doors close. As they navigate through the sky, a critical issue arises when the ship's navigation system malfunctions. Jack asks Seth how to fix it, and while attempting the repair, Siphon appears inside the ship. A fierce struggle ensues between Jack and Siphon. During the fight, Siphon's helmet is accidentally knocked off. With Seth's help, Jack manages to overpower Siphon, delivering a final blow that sends him out of the spaceship to his demise. Following this, the group lands the spaceship safely. Seth and Sarah prepare to say their goodbyes to Jack and Alex. Before leaving, Seth hands Jack a device and says, "Keep this with you. It will allow us to find you if we ever need to." Expressing their gratitude, Sarah and Seth thank Jack and Alex for everything they've done. Just before parting ways, Sarah asks Jack to take good care of her dog. With a final farewell, Sarah and Seth board their spaceship and depart for their home planet. Sometime later, Jack and Alex come together to document everything they experienced. They publish a successful book, Race to Witch Mountain, sharing their incredible story with the world. The movie concludes with a scene of Jack and Alex leaving a meeting related to their book. As they get into the car, the device Seth gave them lights up with a message. Seeing it, both Jack and Alex smile knowingly. The final moments show Jack driving the car into the distance, bringing this beautiful movie to a heartfelt close. So, what do you think about today's story? Don't forget to leave a comment and give a like below. Also, if you haven't subscribed to our Cinema Screen HD YouTube channel yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon by selecting all to stay updated. That's it for today. We'll see you soon in the next video. Until then, have a great day, everyone.